You likely have heard some variation of just be yourself, show your true colors, you do you, let your authentic self shine. Well, all of these platitudes can serve a purpose. I mean, who doesn't want to be more of who they are? They also can leave you wondering, well, what does that mean exactly? Like, how do I show up and be myself? And this is the reason I wanted to make this video, is because I think we can often provide this vague advice to people, and then they're left thinking, I need more tactical and practical ways to really get to know who I truly am. And so in doing research for this video, I saw a lot of advice on do these 5 things to know yourself, ask yourself these questions, all helpful. But I wanted to offer a different perspective, specifically 2 things you should not do if you truly want to discover who you are. And so let's get into it. I'm really eager to share more about this topic because it's one that is near and dear to my heart. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Colleen Canny. I am a career and executive advisor. And for the past 15 years, I have worked with many different clients who have come to me and said, I thought I knew who I was, but I really don't know who I am. Or I've just experienced this major life event. I'm in transition and I feel like my world is upside down. I thought I knew who I was. And I think it's important, regardless of your age, whether you're in your 20s, your 40s, or 60s, to know that there is an unraveling process. It takes a lifetime to really get to know all aspects of our personality. And most importantly, it takes a lifetime to really accept all different parts of ourselves. So I want to start this video with a quote from Carl Jung. And it's really powerful, and I think it sums up what I would like to share in a more eloquent manner. And the quote is this: "The world will ask you who you are. And if you don't know, the world will tell you." Isn't that interesting? And so what I believe Carl Jung was saying is, if we don't consciously understand who we are on a deeper level, we will unconsciously absorb all of the feedback from the world. And so this leads me to the first thing to avoid: not to outsource your identity to others. And by this, I mean be discerning in what feedback you decide is your truth. And as part of this process, I recommend an exercise where essentially you are separating signal from the noise. And what this entails is really looking at feedback you've received throughout your life and determining, does this feedback resonate with me? Even if it's constructive feedback, does this feedback help to build me up, help me become a better person? Did the person delivering the feedback have my best interests in mind, or did they truly know me? Did they see me? That's where we find the signal. And then conversely, with noise, it could be random people on the internet, wink, wink, who are sharing their opinions about you and they really don't know you. Or it could even be a parent or someone who does know you, but they're projecting their insecurities or their unprocessed stuff onto you. And so with the signal, it often can feel like really uncomfortable. Like, gosh, I'm allowing this feedback to define me, but there's a question of like, is it really true? So I'm going to share an example from my own life during a time when I received pretty brutal feedback. I was in my 20s in a relationship with a guy. I'll call him Math Guy because he was pursuing his PhD in mathematics. I thought our relationship was progressing. He had invited me to visit his family for Thanksgiving, which I thought was a fairly big deal, meeting his family, especially for a holiday. And a few days before we were supposed to hop on a plane for Thanksgiving, he broke up with me. And his words were this: "Your passion is annoying and your enthusiasm is grating." So as I sat there, I thought, well, I guess we will not be carving the turkey together, because I knew like the relationship was over. But then my second thought was, he has attacked kind of the core of who I am, or he's been critical of the core of who I am. You know, I joke with people that I was born a fire-breathing baby. You know, I naturally just have a lot of zest for life. I'm passionate about a lot of different things. That's just who I am. That's how I was wired. And so as I was sitting there, Math Guy started crying. And I'm like, dude, how come you're crying? I should be crying. But at any rate, I got up and I said to him, this is who I am. I ended up walking out. There was some conversation afterwards. But in reflecting on this particular breakup, I realized that there actually was a lot of truth to the feedback I receive. For certain personalities, especially personalities that are polar opposite from mine, which was true for Math Guy, yeah, my passion probably could really be annoying. My enthusiasm for life could also be off-putting for certain people. And so in the case with Math Guy, I think my dynamic personality was initially appealing. He's like, oh, she's so different from me. And oh, this is exciting. This is fun. It's like a little spice in his life. But then over time, I think it was too much, because he wasn't that comfortable with his own feelings. And then he had this woman with big feelings, and he's like, this is just overwhelming for me. And so I think it's really important to consider feedback you have received in your own life and whether or not it has defined you. For example, I'll work with clients who will share feedback they received at a young age from a parent, and it's often surprising how they've carried that feedback, which is often like really critical. They've carried that feedback into adulthood. And as a result, they've held themselves back, or they've questioned their self-worth. And that's really dangerous. That is where this noise comes into play. And so what I recommend for you is to literally make a column. At some point, you can do it right now while you're watching this video, of signal versus noise. And as you look at all of the noise, take that feedback to the dump and say, see you later, good riddance. So next, I want to talk about the importance of not berating yourself. And this thought came about as I was listening to an interview of a well-known actor. And he said for the first 30 years or so of his life, he would wake up almost every morning. And before he even got out of bed, I am such a piece of fill in the blank. That is harsh. And so this actor was literally running hard energy throughout his system all day long. I mean, imagine starting your day and having someone tell you, like, you're a piece of, and you're the one that's telling yourself that. Not surprising, this actor struggled with drug addiction and, lying, just really like unhealthy behavior because he believed he was unworthy. And what helped this particular individual turn his life around was starting therapy, going to AA meetings, and really rebuilding his self-esteem. He started to recognize how creative he was, how funny he was, how talented of an actor he was. And over the course of a few years, he said he was able to really shift his life because the view of himself changed. And this is where it's really important to consider how much hard energy is running throughout our body. And this could be really, as I mentioned, harsh feedback that we're telling ourselves. It could be criticisms. It could be judgments we have. It could be simply not being gentle with ourselves when needed. So what I recommend here is on a daily basis, keep a compassion journal. You often hear of these gratitude journals. I'm a big fan. I daily write in my gratitude journal. I think what's equally important is to consider how you can be more kind to yourself. How can you offer yourself more love? How can you soften the energy that's running through you? As an example, let's say that you gave a big presentation at work. You prepared like no one's business. You knew your facts and figures, your slides were on point, and then there was a technical glitch. It happens to the best of us. You're thrown off a bit and you find like your intro was supposed to be really powerful and engaging. And instead, like you missed a few beats, and instead of beating yourself up, running that hard energy, you can reflect on the presentation and think, you know what? I prepared for 2 weeks. I knew my material. There were a few bumps. There's also a major technical glitch. That's okay. I got back on track and I nailed that presentation. This is what it means to befriend ourselves. Because honestly, every single day we likely will make a mistake, if you want to call it that, or we'll learn, we'll have a growing pain that comes about. For example, you could have been really impatient with your significant other. And it's like, gosh, you're wondering, I can't believe I was such a fill in the blank. Like, what was going on? Why was I acting that way to the person I love? And then you reflect and think, oh, okay, the dog was up and they were having an accident on the living room floor. Like you realize, oh, you got 4 hours of sleep and you normally need about 7 or 8 to be your best. And so you're dealing with sleep deprivation. You were scrubbing the living room floor. And it's like, that's where you can see this compassion can make such a big difference in how we view ourselves. And so for you, consider what are some key takeaways from this video. Reflect on, okay, am I outsourcing my identity to the world? Am I allowing the world that really doesn't know me that well to define who I am in an unhealthy way? Or am I taking time to really incorporate a balanced perspective where you're taking feedback from others, as well as taking time to really get to know yourself? Figuring out, when are you your best? When do you most feel comfortable in your own skin? Who are you around? What are you doing? Where do your strengths lie? What are your superpowers? What do you care about? What type of personality do you have? And often this internal reflection requires some time in solitude. So I think there's a balance of being out in the world while also in some cases being a monk and taking time to journal or meditate or read and just learn more about who you are. And then next, think about how you may be berating yourself. Are you running this really harsh energy that's taking a toll? Because let me tell you, when you're beating yourself up on a daily basis, it will be really hard, first off, just to feel good, but also to feel safe enough to take time, accept different parts of yourself. So in closing, I want to quote James Hollis. He is a very well-known psychoanalyst. I am such a big fan of his work. He's in his 80s and has written many different books. But he argues that the most important appointment you need to show up for is the one with your soul. Because he said, if you're not in touch with your soul, if you're not honoring your soul, you're not listening to your soul, you will pay the price. You will know that something is really off. Your relationships may be impacted. You may be doing work that you're not meant to be doing. You may not be using your gifts in a way that could benefit the world. And I think most importantly, you won't feel at peace. You think about the actor I mentioned, waking up every day telling yourself that you're kind of worthless. I mean, how can you possibly be at peace? Start taking some time. Start really listening to the call of your soul and know that it will transform your life. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate hearing from you and what you learned from the video. Take care.